Yeah, I know. And finally, since we're going with film noir detective story after all, let's do it with appropriate music. To give it some ambience. A story told tonight for your approval. A story of a city, a dark city of streets, of alleys, secrets, and violence. A city currently being gripped in the shadow of a serial killer, a brutal murderer who had so far claimed 8 victims, each one clubbed to death. The bloody corpses beaten, leaving a trail of blood on the streets. And after committing these atrocities, the killer slipped silently back into the heart of the city, escaping from view and awaiting his next victim. The city was gripped in terror of this killer, ready to strike again, so they called their best detective to the scene, a guy by the name of Spade, Jack Spade. Jack was assisted by his assistant, Larry, and the two of them were going to work on the case together to try and catch the killer. Jack and Larry searched through the streets, interviewing witnesses at underground liquor where the lowlife hang out, and talking to suspects until they turned up a single suspect, which just happened to be the right guy, but they didn't know it. And as they were dragging him back to try and beat a confession out of him, he gave them the slip, disguising himself as a woman, a redhead, and escaped back into the city, losing himself amongst the cacophony and sound of people. Jack and Larry had a problem now. Not only did the guy know they were coming for him, but he was in disguise. If they wanted to catch him, they were going to have to go undercover. Jack used his disguise skills to blend so subtly with the shadows of the city. It was as though he was invisible. Larry wasn't as stealthy as Jack, but he was highly trained and he was fast. And quick as a flash, he followed his captain into the streets. And the two of them searched through the city, interviewing witnesses at underground liquor, and looking for clues. They might have stopped at a brothel once, I'm not sure. History doesn't relate. But eventually the two of them converged, deep in the heart of the gritty streets, trapping a single suspect between them. Of course, while the guy was in disguise, they couldn't still ID him for certain. So they tore off his costume, revealing him at last, as their killer, finally brought to justice. So you can see, little music, lighting, costume can jazz up even the most humble card trick. How you doing? Tell me about it. You know, actually, while we've got the drama lighting here, let me share just one last thing with you guys, because those are basically the principles of close-up magic that I've talked about: sleight of hand, the misdirection, and the theatre. But in the same way that if you take sculpture as a different art form, a tiny, intricate little bronze piece can be just as artistically satisfying as Mount Rushmore, you know, the biggest thing. A tiny little illusion involving something just like as simple as a little piece of string can be just as intricate and challenging as the biggest stage illusion, you know, making the Statue of Liberty disappear in a different way. And this was actually one of the first illusions I ever saw when I was first getting into close-up magic and illusion. But it was literally years before I could learn to do it properly. There's a saying in this art, which is that to know how something's done is nothing. That's easy to find out. You just have to be told it. To be able to do it is something. That's a whole new level of effort and practice and everything else. It's difficult as learning any other art form. But then to be able to perform it, to do it in front of a living, breathing crowd of intelligent people, that's everything. That's the real challenge. And in this, just like any other illusion, as the light bounces off your retina and your brain processes what's going on in front of you, and you see the image of a guy in a suit breaking up a piece of thread, there's actually a lot of sleight of hand going on in this scene. The reason you don't see any sleight of hand going on is it's covered by very carefully choreographed misdirection, like we discussed earlier. And so you don't perceive the moves taking place because your brain is not configured in a way for that to happen. And even within that, The illusion is still within the frame of the lighting, the music, and just the fact that there's one person in front of you talking and communicating with you. And if the sleight of hand has been practiced to a high enough degree over the weeks and the months and the years of self-denial and what could in a social life, and it's covered adequately by the misdirection, and the two are working together in harmony to make the illusion, and the illusion itself is being presented in a compelling enough manner, you hopefully end up with not just an interesting illusion, but an interesting all-round experience for you guys. I've been Simon Coronel. I hope you found this last 20 minutes entertaining as well as edifying. Thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your night at the Magic Castle.
Very good.
Thank you very much.